Now, welcome to the Pirates Podcast, to be named later, everybody. I am Eddie Provident. With me is my main man, Alex Stumpf. Alex Stumpf, the GOAT when it comes to writing baseball pieces. Let me tell you. Listen, I'm obviously biased because this is for DK Pittsburgh Sports, and Alex is one of my best friends. But if you have not read his oral history uh, in written form on the 2013 wild card game and the lead up to it, you are really missing out as a sports fan, not even as a baseball fan, as a sports fan, as a Pittsburgher. It is, Alex, listen, you've done a lot of good stuff, man. I'm going to give you your flowers. This is one of the best things that you've put together.
It's one of my favorite things that I've put together, and I wanted to touch on it a little more because I said this to a lot of the people that I interviewed, over the course of it. I was in college whenever that team happened, and I kind of thought, like, you know what, this is a pretty good time to just talk about, like, my our personal memories with that
Yeah.
team also, because I think that's the sentinel team, I think, for all people who are baseball fans in Pittsburgh, growing up or currently or whatever. Like, that's the where were you whatever, Cueto
Yep.
happened, where were you whenever. So I kind of want to touch on that stuff. I grew up in the South Hills, Baldwin. Growing up, was a baseball fan, became at the age of 11, and you watch a lot of baseball, and that was an amazing year. And I'm going to start this off by saying that the 2013 Pittsburgh Pirates got me fired. The only time I've ever been fired from a job. Uh, I was I was delivering pizza that summer because I some people may know I was also delivering pizza before I got the job with DK. It's actually a pretty cushy gig, in the grand scheme of things.
It
Like, it's
depends.
not
It
a
depends on what neighborhood, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, but it's a that's for another podcast, other episodes that I have there. Actually, that's got to be the third segment. I'm going to share a delivery story for that one, so stick around. But the 2013 Pirates, I would I took longer than anyone else for any other delivery, and it wasn't. I mean, I always got the food to the pizza to the customer real fast because tip. I ain't messing that up. But on the way back, I'd take the long road, or I'd stay, in the car because I'm working nights. It's like I want to listen to what's going on in the game. So owner caught on to that, and I got fired for it. So the 2013
Wow.
Pittsburgh Pirates, and by extension, Greg Brown and Tim Neverett got me fired.
First of all, what a jerk of an owner to know that that was going to
Oh yeah,
be.
I was gonna quit the job
Come
anyway.
on,
Whenever
man. Like,
the school started, it was very clearly a summer job. Here's a way to get just some cash in my pocket, type of deal. But yeah,
right. See, so
it
for
was
me,
not a career, I should say.
it wasn't a career. Yeah. For me, I so I was working at Children's Hospital in their AV department, and thankfully I had nights off. It was a day job, and I was still living with my parents. I was what's 2013, so I'd have been 24 years old. So I was like like a year or two away from moving out, but I was still living with my parents. And I'm gonna do this without getting emotional, I promise. But I played baseball my whole life, right? Like I played football for a little while, I played hockey for a little while, but I played baseball my whole life. You had talked about, in your article, Neil Walker talked about getting drafted in 2004. I went to City Charter High School, so I went to high school year round. So in 2004, when he got drafted, I was in class that day. And I remember thinking, man, the Pittsburgh kid got drafted. I want to be that kid because I was a sophomore in 2004. And I'm like, I'm gonna get drafted. And then they started throwing curveballs at me. And I was like, I'm not gonna get drafted. But baseball was growing up, it was my life. I would sit on the porch with my grandpa, and him and I, like, they own a bar down in Hazelwood, and they have a deck above the bar, and he was the only one that would watch Pirate games with me, and we would sit out there in the summers when they stunk, and we would watch every Pirate game out on the deck. And so you fast forward, and my grandpap had passed away, so I didn't get to experience it with him. And my dad was a very jaded Pirates fan. Like, he didn't want anything to do with them while they were losing, but you could see his heart was there. And then when 2011 they were getting good, in 2012 they went on their run, and then they collapsed. Like, you could just see like it building up in my dad. And so 2013 comes around, and this team is actually good. And this team looks the part, right? And we finally get playoff baseball in Pittsburgh for the first time, really, in my lifetime, because in 92, I mean, I was 3 years old. So it wasn't like I remember playoff baseball. And I remember sitting in the living room with my dad, and he's on one couch and I'm on the other couch, and we're just like glued to the TV. And like, probably like middle of the first inning, it finally clicks. And he looks at me and he was like, I never thought I'd see playoff baseball with my son. And man, we both started crying in the living room watching the Pirates, man. And it is, I've been to an AFC championship with my parents. I've been to playoff hockey games. I got to cover the backyard brawl on the field. And sitting in my living room with my dad for that baseball game is a top 5 sports memory of my life. And I will cherish that for my entire. I'll be 95 years old with dementia or Alzheimer's, and I will still remember that day. It was one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had.
That's something that I brought up with Russell Martin for the article, and I kind of said, like, for a generation of Pittsburgh baseball fans, you have the moment. Like, you have like the big, where were you whenever Russell Martin hit the home run? And I don't want to paraphrase the last quote, because I thought his answer was very beautiful. It was short but beautiful answer. It's the last quote that I have in the story, which you should read on DK Pittsburgh Sports. Just invest some time. Yeah, invest some time. But paraphrase, I thought it was like one of those, like, he recognizes it, and I think he also knows. I mean, Pittsburgh was a stop for him. I mean, he has a connection to the city. The city obviously loves him. He never has to buy a meal if he is ever in the city confines.
Right.
One of those type of deals. It was like but you could tell, like, it was I pressed, like, becoming a Pirate, and he said, a big part of it was, like, I wasn't looking for something extremely long term. I was looking for something that was the right fit now, and the Pirates were the right fit now. So I get that I kind of assume whenever he's talking about it, like, he gets, like, no, it should be like Kutch or AJ or somewhere like that like you should associate with. But, like, the answer I thought was very sweet for it, and it was one of those ones that, I don't know. I got Garrett Cole for a couple minutes whenever he was in Pittsburgh, and his last quote, like, I said, like, as soon as, like, I left that club, I was like, I know how I'm ending this story. Like, I'm ending it with that Cole quote. But that Martin one was, I second guessed for a second, like, oh, maybe I end with this one. But no, so I'm glad I ended it with the Cole one. One more 2013 story on top. But I'm sorry, I got sidetracked for a second. That is the game. That is the greatest game in PNC Park's history. That is the game that, for a long time, it didn't know if there was ever going to be something like that in Pittsburgh ever again. So that was the game. That was why I wish I could have gotten it out for the actual 10th anniversary, but that was the last game of the regular season, and it's like,
it was worth the wait, Alex. It was definitely.
Oh yeah, it was definitely worth the wait. And oh my God, reap so type of deal. I don't know if anyone's gonna get the Twitter meme of, like, me reaping. It's like, yes, this is me so well, this sucks. It's like me interviewing everyone. This is the greatest thing ever. Oh my god, this article's gonna rock. And then like me transcribing. What the hell? Why did you do this to yourself? 7 hours of transcribing. I'm sorry, 7 hours of audio of transcribing. That's not
Right.
7 hours of like actually listening. If I just listen through it, it's a full work day. So it's a lot of stuff. Other story in 2013, game 4 of the NLDS. It was a day game or late afternoon game, whatever it was.
Was this the Michael Walker game?
Yeah. I'm in my school's newspaper room. We're working out to get a paper out, so I will forever know that game was on a Monday. So we're trying to get a paper done, and we're watching what's going on, and the my college friends were pretty easy to figure out who my college friends were, because like they like I latched onto them like sports or whatever, and like I was really close with everyone on that staff, but only like 2 or 3 people we were watching that game. We were hanging on every pitch, and it's a whole room full of other people who just don't care about baseball at all. And like whenever a catch flies out, like how dejected they were. Like, well, there's still a game 5, and you're like, you guys don't understand. Like that this is over. This was the run, and just being kind of at peace with everything at that. Like, so yeah, that was.
I was at that game, the Michael Walker game.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so I called off sick that day for work.
Good call.
And I went with a couple of friends from my campus ministry, and it's funny. The anniversary of that game was just about a week ago, not even. And I had a picture of one of my friends, Shelly, standing with her back to the field on the rotunda, because we had standing room only seats. And I texted her, "So you believe this is 10 years already?" And she's married, and she's she's actually due any day now. And it was like it's just that it came up in my time hop, and it sparked a conversation with me and her that we immediately went back. And I remember at first being so frustrated because Michael Walker was just dealing that game. But I remember leaving the stadium. They lost 2-1, and I remember leaving the ballpark that day just thinking, man, I should be so upset that they lost this baseball game the way they lost it. And, the opposing pitcher threw an absolute gem of a game. But I just experienced baseball, like, playoff baseball in person. And, we didn't know that they were going to be back 2 more years in a row. But, like, even though it was just wild card games. But I thought, like, this may never happen again in my lifetime. It was a surreal moment. That whole ride, man, like, it was just it's hard to put into words. I can remember like where I was for every part of it. It's kind of like I equate it to the Steelers Super Bowl runs and the Penguins Stanley Cup runs. That like even though they didn't win a championship, it was such a big deal as a Pittsburgh sports fan because we'd never seen it, that I could vividly remember it. And when I see those old pictures and I talk to my friends that I was hanging out with for those games and my parents and everything, like it immediately takes me right back. Like it's like it was yesterday, and it's some of the most fun I've had as a sports fan.
We're going to take a quick break. Whenever we come back, I want to talk about the 2021 season a little bit and the MLB postseason and how they are actually related here.
You got me here, man.
Welcome back to the Pirates Podcast, to be named later. Eddie, in 2021, 4 teams lost 100 games or more.
Okay.
This year, 2 of those teams have already advanced to the league championship series, the Rangers and the Diamondbacks.
And the Diamondbacks.
And
Pirates
the other one,
the third one.
And then the other one was the Orioles, who won over 100 games and had the best record in the American League.
Why are you
So
going to do us like this? Why are you going to
I
do it like we just had all of these great memories, Alex? Now you're going
this
to do
is
this.
this is gonna be a short, quick. We're doing this one quick and dirty here. Should the Pirates have reasonable expectations of next year, not just making the playoffs, but take it a step further? Of you're not just here to for a cameo; you're here to make noise. Is that a fair
I
expectation for next year?
I think I might have said it a couple weeks ago on the show. I've had conversations with friends of mine. 100% yes. When you go around, like just go around the position by position minus first base right now. Uh, let's not look at pitchers yet. Just look at the infield. Look at the outfield. Okay, they've got ball players at almost every position. Not not guys like, oh, he could slot in pretty well here. No, they've got high pedigree guys in the outfield. They've got high pedigree guys in the infield. They've got two high pedigree guys at catcher that they're going to be able to move around and do stuff with. There is no excuse for this baseball team not to compete, not to be in a playoff spot, and not to really make a serious run and make some noise in 2024. If they don't, Alex, I think it's time to cut bait on a lot of things in this organization and have some really hard conversations. 2024 is the year for me, especially after seeing what the Diamondbacks have done and the Rangers have done and what the Orioles have done. 2024 has to be the year for this baseball team. This is the time that they start to shell out money for free agents. This is the time to do it, man.
It's a bad class, man. That's the only thing I'm going to push back on here. I think it's a bad class of free agents. Like there are some guys I do like. I still like Jack Flaherty. I still like, but I kind of look at maybe you go with the trade market. Maybe you look other ways to
Trade market's
invest.
fine with me. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't
Yeah,
have just said free
yeah, yeah.
agency, but you have to make external ads on this team this
Yes,
year,
yes. You
this
need to add.
offseason.
You need to add this winter, and you need to add significantly this winter.
Yeah, it can't be a we're going to try out this guy and hopefully we could refurbish his career or whatever revive his career. No, this needs to be you've got to get to put it in football terms. You got to get some dogs.
Yeah, you got to get. I'll borrow Greg Brown's word from my story. You got to get a jerk like AJ Burnett in there.
Yeah, dude, I would love to see something like that, man. Find
Yeah.
somebody that's like got a chip on their shoulder and wants to prove something to the world. I like
Don't you love that also about Pittsburgh? That I could say like go get an AJ Burnett and it's like an
Yep.
instantaneous. Like it can transcend sports. Like, did the Penguins just make their Marlon Bird trade? Like, the Pirates just made their James Ferrier signing. Like
Yeah.
it just
it
instantaneously
clicks.
Yes.
Everyone understands it. Yeah.
Yes, it's unspoken shorthand. Yeah, and I'm gonna just add on one thing real fast here that next year has to be the year because I look at this National League Central as very up for grabs. The Cardinals, I think they're done. I think Ollie Marmol is a terrible manager. They aren't getting any younger. They have wasted so many good potential outfielders, in the mix. They don't have the pitching unless they absolutely go ham this winter on pitching that isn't really available. I don't see how they compete next year or anytime in the few next years. The chickens have come to coop. I think the Cardinals are down for a while. I think the Cubs, they're not going to be able to keep Stroman and Bellinger. And I think they overachieved. They don't have the bullpen. They don't win close games. I don't think the Cubs are serious contention, and the Brewers are done. This is going to be a brutal offseason for the Brewers, and great if you're into Schadenfreude, in Pittsburgh. Like this is they've got a great farm system. I don't think they're going to be down for that long, but 2024 is going to be brutal. So I kind of look at this division of it could be the Reds and Pirates, and they are two teams that are basically in the exact same spot.
Alex, how fun is it going to be to see Ellie De La Cruz versus O'Neal Cruz, assuming they're both healthy next year? Those games against each other. I know that they're not directly head to head, but they are the same type of player in that they can be the guy, right?
Yeah.
They can be the guy on a team. They're the same type of player that they have all of the tools. We talk about 5-tool players. They have everything. They're gifted beyond belief. Watching the two of them go at each other because they're both going to want the spotlight. Now, De La Cruz has a little bit more of a personality, I think. Like he kind of shines a little more and he's a little bit more flamboyant. But I think that could pull the best out of O'Neal Cruz, man. I'm so excited to see the two of them go at it.
I am very. I mean, we're gonna. It's a long off season. I'm sure this is gonna be brought up at some point, but I am looking forward to the sleeping giant that is O'Neal Cruz after not playing this year. I just kind of give him a full off season where he's not really rehabbing and he can just get better. I think this is.
Something to prove.
I am actually going to watch Winter Ball this year, assuming that he plays, and nothing official. I'm expecting he will, though.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. I think he's got something to prove. I think that this Pirates team as a whole, after the last 2-3 months of the season that they had, they know that they can compete with teams already. You add a couple pieces, give everybody, like you said, a year to get better. There's no reason that they shouldn't be contending for the division and putting pressure on, the established teams in the NL. Yeah. I'm 100% of that mindset.
So there we go. 85 wins and bouncing is nope. It's a step, but that need to shoot higher than that, considering everything that else is going on. And with those other teams where they were in 2021 also, they showed you could do this in 2 years.
And you know what? Just to put a cap on it, to bring it full circle to your article or to your feature, Clint Hurdle was not okay with just being 500 and stopping the losing.
That's right.
Man, that is the mentality that this team needs to take. 500 ain't good enough, man.
Going back to the story, since I don't know, that just engulfed my life for a couple weeks there. Huge shout out to those guys, man. Like Clint, Grilly, Burnett, like long list. I know I'm singling out a few here, but like you could tell just by how much Clint and Grilly and Burnett was in that story that you realize like how fruitful and how great a conversation that was.
Can I peel back the curtain real quick?
Yes.
So the last game of the season, I was there covering it as a photographer. You're there, you're as a writer, as a reporter, and we had hung out with the Renegades of the Rotunda pregame for a quick minute. Shout out to those guys. Thanks again for the free food. They're great people. If you get a chance to meet them at a Pirate game. But anyways, back to my point. When I was looking for you originally, you were with Russell Martin. I called you and I get a text message that just says, I'm talking to Russell Martin. And my reply was tell him I said hi, but I wanted to be like, where? I'll meet you there. I want to meet this guy. Like I was ready to fanboy.
It was on the phone. Yeah.
Right. And then the second one was the reason why we only spent a hot minute with the Renegades of the Rotunda is because you had another interview that I wanted to follow you along for with Andrew McCutcheon, as brief as it was. I got to give you props for being able to put this whole thing together, especially because back then, like you said, you were in college, you were a Pirates fan at that point in time. You were not doing this thing professionally. The fact that you were able to keep it together and I realize you have years of experience now doing this and being around the team, but like, come on, man, those are the guys that we grew up watching. And you were able to keep
story a couple years ago.
Like, I got to give you credit because I don't know that I would have been able to keep the professionalism up. I think I probably would have. I would have let the moment get to me. The standard would not have been the standard for this guy right here. So I got to give you some props for being able to keep it together and actually get this together professionally, because it was a lot of names. Every time you would text me like, yeah, I'm talking to so-and-so this week. I'm doing this way. Be like, no, this guy, I'm what in the world? Like, it's kind of fun to see this get pieced together behind the scenes.
All right, that's enough self-congratulation for the story. Go read it. Go read it if you haven't. I want to get that up to at least 10,000 views. So, given that, I guess this would come out on Saturday, a day 3 boost there, hopefully. We're going to take one more break. Whenever we come back, a completely non-baseball delivery story.
Yes, I got to hear this.
So, Eddie, the year is 2012. I'm in college, obviously, and I'm working at Jimmy John's in Bakery Square. And summer, and one of my first days, I had a delivery to a place called Auburn Street. And I was warned, like, hey, it could get a little rough out there. I'm like, okay, whatever. I drive out there. I drive up to the door, and there's no door. And the guy was sitting on his couch, and he comes out, and he's like, yeah, I had my door stolen last night. And I gave him the sandwich for free. I'm like, I don't know how to proceed with this information here. Like, you got bigger problems here, dude. Here, have lunch. Lunch is on me.
Listen, man, I have spent 32 of my 34 years on Earth living in the neighborhood of Hazelwood.
Mm-hmm.
People that are from Pittsburgh know exactly what that means. In my 32 years of living in Hazelwood and 34 years of hanging out in Hazelwood, I have never heard of someone getting their door stolen.
Who steals a door?
Listen.
What do you gain from this?
Listen, my favorite story, Alex, is I knew a guy that stole a refrigerator out of someone's house. And it was one of those, like, it was one with the touch screen, the big Samsungs, right? And he couldn't.
The Grinch?
No, he couldn't fit it into his house because his door wasn't big enough. So he left. Listen, he left it in his front yard, right? And the person that owned the fridge drove past and saw his fridge in this guy's yard, and that's how this guy got arrested.
I don't know how I would be able
losing a door.
I don't know how I would be able to process if I was driving down the street. I'm like, that's my refrigerator.
This is the last one, I promise. Before this goes off the rails, do you remember probably about 5 years ago now, the issue on Route 28, the traffic jam that was caused because someone had a washing machine fall out of the back of their pickup truck?
I don't remember this, no.
Okay, so there was this. It was a big thing. It was like a meme, like one of those Pittsburgh meme things. Traffic, for miles on Route 28 because of a washing machine that fell out of a pickup truck. It was the same guy, and he had stole the washing machine, and it was like this guy is.
I would move on from appliances.
Yeah, I don't think appliances are this guy's thing.
No, this ain't it. Well, Eddie, I think there was some baseball somewhere in this podcast, and we want to thank everyone who came in to listen to the 2 minutes of baseball talk and a lot about.
It's been a good one.
A decade-old team. Yeah, this was a good one. This was fun.
One. I needed to laugh. I definitely needed to laugh. We'll do it next week, man.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you aren't already subscribed to the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast and Network, please do so. We'll be there every week. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again next week.